In Remote Desktop Manager, you might have to create an RDP session that requires an SSH tunnel to access the computer. To do so, you can configure it directly in the RDP entry parameters if you select VPN/tunnel/gateway under Connections in the left menu. But we recommend creating an SSH tunnel entry first and then linking it to the RDP session you wish to use it for. To create the SSH tunnel entry, click on New Entry. Look for SSH tunnel in the session category here. When you found it, click on Select to start the configuration. Start by giving it a meaningful name. Select the folder in which you want it to be. So in my case, I'll put it in SSH session. Select if you want the display to be embedded or undocked or external. Select if you want to configure the host within the entry parameters with host configured, or you can also use linked vault or inherited from the folder. And you can select if you want the credentials to be username and password within the entry parameters, linked vault, inherited, my personal credentials, none, find by name if you're using your user vault, privileged account, or my privileged account. In general, start by configuring the host name. You can either enter it in the field or use the ellipsis to find all the computers within the network with the network scan. In my case, I'll use Showcase Win2. I'll select it. You also have to configure the port, which is by default to port 22. That's what I'm going to be using for today, so I'll leave it to default. You can also set the host public key if you need to, just by clicking on the Set Host Public Key button here. And you'll have to enter your username and password to connect to the SSH server. Now that the username and password has been set, scroll down to get to the outgoing tunnel settings. For the outgoing tunnel settings, you can select if you want the mode to be local, remote, or dynamic. In our case, we'll use the local. For the source, we suggest leaving it to the default IP, which is 127.0.0.1. And we also suggest leaving the source port to default. But if you wish to change it, simply click on default and you'll be able to change it from there. You can also use the port generator if you need to generate a random port. You also have to enter the destination name where you want to connect through the SSH tunnel. In my case, I want to connect to showcase-win1. And you have to configure the destination port. If you want to change it, you can always click on default, change it from there, and click OK. If you need to configure an SSH key to your SSH tunnel entry, go to the SSH key tab. And from there, you'll be able to select the entry type between file, local, embedded data, linked vault, my personal SSH key, or your user vault. In our case, we'll leave it to no private key. When you're done, simply click on Add to create the entry. Now that the SSH tunnel entry has been created, let's use it in an RDP entry. In our case, we want to use it to connect to Showcase Win1. So the entry is already created here. We'll just have to right click on it and go to Properties. Now we want to go in Connection and find VPN tunnel and gateway. From there, you need to configure how you want the SSH tunnel to connect to the RDP entry. Between always connect manually, connect if unable to ping, port scan, inherited. Ask for confirmation to connect if network adapter not found, or prompt if unable to ping or scan. In our case, we'll use always connect. Next, you have to configure the type between multiple options. In our case, we'll use session since we want to use an SSH tunnel session. Next, you have to configure if you want the SSH tunnel to close on session close. So basically when you close the RDP session, it will close the SSH tunnel entry as well. Or you can also close it manually later or confirm disconnect. In our case, we'll use on session close. Next, you can configure the VPN group. In our case, we don't use one, so we'll leave it empty. Now head over to the settings session tab to link the SSH tunnel entry we just created. So in our case, we'll use linked vault because it's currently in the vault. If you would have created the entry in your user vault, you can also use find by name user vault. Now you can look for the entry we created. So in our case, it was SSH session/SSH tunnel. And when you're done with the configuration, simply click on update. From now on, for each connection that comes on interface 127.0.0.1 and port 3390, it will forward that connection to the SSH server and request the server to forward that connection to your remote host. If you need to use the advanced configurations or want to know more about the SSH tunnel, feel free to consult our documentations and knowledge base articles.